What's up, guys? I am in Israel, and I just got back from the West Bank. I had the honor of meeting Dani Tirza, who I know is the really cool retired IDF colonel that showed me around, and you know as the guy who designed the border fence between Israeli territories and Palestinian territories in Judea and Samaria. If anything is going to dismiss the claims of apartheid, the separation of Jews and Palestinians, it'll be this. Take a look.
So today I'll take you for a very short tour in Jerusalem, trying to share with you some of the dilemmas that I had to face when I got the mission from the Israeli government to design and build a security fence. But that was in 2002. I cannot start the story of the security fence in 2002 because we have to recognize that there are two different narratives about the past. As we have our national story, that we really believe that this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, the Palestinians have another narrative. And if we don't recognize their narrative, we cannot understand what this conflict is about. Well, our national story is very simple. We, the Jews, are the people that God promised us this land. He didn't promise it to any Arab. There were no Arabs that time at that land. We were living here, we were thrown by force from our land 2,000 years ago, and now we came back to rebuild our nation on our land. We call it that time, the people without land are coming back to the land without people. Because really in the end of the 19th century, there were not many Arabs in that land too. Of course, there were a lot more Arabs than Jews here. But we thought that we are going to establish here a democratic state. In every democratic state there are some minorities. So we thought that we will bring here the Jews from all over the world and the Arabs will be an equal minority inside Israel. That's what we thought. But as you know, the Arabs didn't like that idea at all. So in 1948, when the British mandate went away and Israel was established here, 5 Arab countries came in with their armies trying to erase Israel that was just born from the map. It was a very tough war. We lost 1% of our population at that war. But thanks God, in the end, we succeeded and we won it. And Israel was built as you can see today. In 1967, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan tried again what they called that time to throw the Jews in the Mediterranean. Well, thanks God, we succeeded and we won that war too. And in 6 days, Israel occupied the West Bank, the Golan Heights, and Sinai Desert. But we didn't annex these lands to Israel. We let it to the future, though we really believe that there will come a day and we can have peace agreement with our neighbors and live here normally in this wild neighborhood of the Middle East. Well, this is our national story, very simple one, but the Palestinians have another narrative. According to the Palestinians, the Jews are not a nation. It's only a religion, and therefore the Jews have no right for their own state, because there is no state for any religion around the globe, even the Vatican. It's not the state of the Christians, it's the state of the administration of the Pope. So as they see it, the Jews that were spread along the world had a lot of money. So they let money to the Turkish Sultan and to the German Empire that they will let them build here a colony. And they are looking above Israel as part of the colonialism of the 19th century. Well, as the colonialism is gone all over the world, most of the Arabs believe that Israel will vanish from the area too. It will take a time. But in Arabic there is a word, sabr. Sabr means patience, but a lot of patience. So they say, okay, we have sabr. The conditions here are too tough, the Jews are too spoiled. It will take a time and the Jews will go away. But a lot of other Arabs says, let's help them go away. So, according to the Palestinians, in 1967, in 1948, when the British mandate went away, and Israel was established here, the Jews tried to get rid from the Arabs that were living here, and that what started the refugees problem. Well, according to the Palestinians, in 1967, Israel tried to enlarge a border. So Israel occupied the West Bank, the Golan Heights, and Sinai Desert. So as they are living under the illegal occupation of Israel, they have all the rights to resist that occupation in any way. So what we call terror attacks, they call it freedom fight. If you have two different narratives, you cannot match them, because narrative is your belief. You can compromise about actual things, but you cannot compromise about your beliefs. And therefore we had here 100 years of armed conflict between the sides. That was till 1993. In 1993, something new came in. There were some unofficial Israelis and some unofficial Palestinians that sat together in Oslo, Norway. And they said to each other, we recognize that you have a different narrative above the past. But let's see if we can find a way for the future. If we can find a way to live here together, to raise children here together. And when they sat together, they found that there is a way. And that's what started the Oslo peace process. Well, we call it the time the tunnel to peace. There is the great light of the peace in the end. But you have to cross the darkness of the process to get there. As you probably know, in this process, a lot of people lost their life, a lot of blood was spilled. But I don't want to get to the details, I want to jump to summer 2000. In summer 2000, we were in Camp David, Maryland, at the peace submission that President Clinton held there. We were 16 Israelis, headed by our Prime Minister at that time, Ehud Barak. The Palestinians, there were 16, headed by their leader, Yasser Arafat, and there was a big American delegation, headed by President Clinton. Just imagine that President Clinton left his office for 2 weeks, and he was with us there on the mountain. So he really believed that we are going to get out from this peace submission with an agreement in our hands. Well, we, the technical staff, we worked in a very good environment. We worked on the wording, worked on the mapping. Of course, there were some gaps between the sides, but that's part of negotiation. That was still the last evening. At the last evening, President Clinton held a nice dinner. He stand and said nice words about peace, and then Prime Minister Ehud Barak stand and said to Yasser Arafat, I am willing to give you almost everything. When he said almost everything that time, he talked about 94% of the West Bank, all Gaza Strip, large areas inside Jerusalem, and even the Temple Mount. But he said to Yasser Arafat, I need one thing from you, that you will sign that this agreement is the end of the conflict between our two people. Otherwise, I cannot give you anything, because if I'll give you what I can today, and tomorrow you'll come with new claims, what I'll do tomorrow? Well, Yasser Arafat was very angry. He left the dinner, he went to his cabin. 3 hours later, he came to President Clinton, and he said to President Clinton, I am the leader of the Palestinian people. I am not the leader of the great Arab nation, all these 21 states. And therefore, I cannot sign that this agreement is the end of the conflict. And everything crashed down at that moment. Well, the next morning, President Clinton came out to the press. He blamed Yasser Arafat that he cheated all the way, that he has no courage to come to guerrilla agreement with Israel, and other bad words. But it didn't help. In the following weeks, the Americans tried to bridge between the sides, but just 6 weeks later, the Palestinians started a terror attack that was prepared long time before that, and in one day, all the life in Israel have been changed. As you know, 2000 was the year that everyone around the globe expected that something new will happen, especially here in the Holy Land. We expected to have more than 3 million pilgrims and tourists. The economical level was very high. Relations between Jews and Arabs were very good. We thought that peace is just behind the corner. And as the expectations were so high, the disappointment was just the same. It was the day before Rosh Hashanah, the first day according to the Jewish calendar, and the head of the opposition of Israel that time, Ariel Sharon, wanted to show everyone that we are not giving up the Temple Mount. So he just wanted to visit there. According to the status quo, Jews are allowed to visit the Temple Mount. They are not allowed to pray there, but they are allowed to visit there. So he just visited the Temple Mount, and the Palestinians use it as a trigger to start this terror attack that was prepared long time before that. Well, first they were shooting from their areas toward Jewish neighborhoods in Jerusalem. Then they were sending terrorists, first with cocktail Molotov bottles, hand grenades, shooting in the streets, putting bombs wherever they can, the explosive cars. And in the end, this other stuff. In the end, the suicide bombers. Of course, all these pilgrims and tourists canceled the tour to Israel. But imagine what happened to the Israelis. Well, I can tell you about myself. I was afraid to send my daughter to a school in Jerusalem after 17 public buses were blown up by terrorists. Who will be the crazy man to visit the famous Machne Yehuda market of Jerusalem after 15 terror attacks there? Jaffa Street of Jerusalem, about 1 mile long, and we had the 21 terror attacks. The big discotheque in Tel Aviv, 1 suicide bomber, 18 youngers were murdered and 150 were wounded. We're standing now at the southeast neighborhood of Jerusalem. This neighborhood behind you is called Gilo neighborhood, G-I-L-O, Gilo neighborhood. About 45,000 Israelis are living here, just low middle class families. And all the houses in front of you are part of the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. It's the same. Some people are calling it the West Bank because it's the West Bank of the Jordan River. Some people are calling it Judea and Samaria because it's the biblical name of the place. Okay, so it's the same place, different names. If you look down the valley, you can see there are 2 roads here. You can see the highway, and then you can see another road, nobody runs on it, and you can see a wire fence that follows this road. Can you see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this wire fence is the security fence. Well, oops, wherever you've seen the security fence in the media, they always show you these concrete walls. Well, there are concrete walls. You can see some of them there on the mountain. We will be there, we will talk about them. But please remember, only less than 12% of this big project of 451 miles long, only less than 12% are concrete walls. All the other are wire fences, as you can see down the valley here. You will never see them in the media, okay? The town that we can see in front of us is Bethlehem. On the top of the mountain, you can see the Red Roof Hotel. If you look from the Red Roof Hotel to the left, you can see like a column between the trees. Well, this column is the statue of Maria that stands on the American University of Bethlehem, Frere University. The Church of Nativity is just behind it, so we cannot see the Nativity Church from here, but it's less than 2 kilometers from the Nativity Church to us. Well, Bethlehem used to be a Christian town for hundreds of years, not anymore. In 1995, according to the interim agreement between Israel and the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Israel left this area and we let it to the Palestinian Authority. And then the Muslims made very hard time to the Christians. So most of the Christians ran away abroad, and today less than 11% of the population in Bethlehem are Christians. Of course, you won't hear about it in the media. On the other mountain there, you can see another Palestinian town. This town is called Bet Jala. In the center of Bet Jala, you can see the big church with the golden dome and the big red roof. This is St. Nicholas Church. Do you know who St. Nicholas was? The original Santa Claus. He came from here, from Bet Jala. Well, Bet Jala used to be a Christian town for hundreds of years. Today, only few Christian families are left here. All the other are Muslims. The white neighborhood just in front of us, from the blue workshop up there to the valley here. If you look carefully in the center of it, you can see the mosque with the minaret and the green dome. Can you see it? Yes. Okay, this white neighborhood here is El Aida refugee camp. Look carefully. This is how refugee camps look like in the West Bank. Not in Gaza Strip, not in Lebanon, not in Syria, not in Jordan. I don't think that any of you can imagine when people are talking about refugee camps that it looks like this white neighborhood here. Because the people that are living here are probably the grandsons of these refugees that ran away in the 48 war. Here they have equal rights as any other Palestinian, so they built nice houses. But still, they hold refugee cards from the UN. As you know, all over the world, you can be a refugee for 10 years, then you become a resident somewhere. Here it's the only place on earth that a second generation, a third generation, and now it's the fourth generation that still consider refugees. Well, why? Because the Palestinian leaders and the Arab countries' leaders want to keep the conflict with Israel. So they are keeping these people in a special status of refugees. And there is UNRWA, the Agency of Refugees of the UN. They are giving services only to Palestinian refugees. There is one organization of refugees of the UN giving services to 180 million refugees. And there is another organization, UNRWA, that gives services only to Palestinians. The Organization of Refugees of the UN are trying to rehabilitate these people, make them living somewhere, getting a citizenship where they are trying to have normal life. UNRWA is trying to keep the story of the refugees, and therefore they are giving services to the people generation after generation. They teach these people in schools, and as you know, in Gaza Strip, they help the Hamas. In some of these, or in most of the infrastructures of UNRWA, there were there the hostages, there were there the Hamas headquarters under the flag of the UN. But that's another story. So till summer 2000, there were very good relations between the people that lives here and the people that lives there. A lot of Israelis were used to go every weekend to Bethlehem, to the holy places there, to sit there in the cafe, to have shopping there, to repair their cars, or even to a dentist. A lot of people from the West Bank were coming every day to Israel, to work here, to have shopping here, to have medical care here, to the universities here. And in that time, we even had a common language with the Palestinians. I don't know if you know it, but in Israel, every child from the 7th class have to learn Arabic at school. Today, most of the children don't want to learn Arabic. And it's a great problem for us, for the army, because when they are coming to the service, we have to teach them basic Arabic. But at that time, we taught Arabic in our schools. They were learning Hebrew from visiting Israel or from the Israeli TV. So there became a lot of friendship between people to people. So one day, when the Palestinians start shooting from their areas toward Gilo neighborhood, people were shocked. The first thing that I have done was to call my colleague on the other side. His name was Colonel Farid. He was the commander of the Palestinian police in all Bethlehem district. And I said to Colonel Farid, go and stop the shooting. You have 250 armed policemen in this area. You can stop the shooting in minutes. But Colonel Farid said to me, well, Dani, we are good friends for a long time. I'm sorry to tell you that if I'll send my policemen to stop the shooting, they probably kill me. And therefore he did nothing. So we had to bring our soldiers here. We put our soldiers here on the ground, and when the Palestinians were shooting, we tried to shoot back. But see in your own eyes, can you shoot back and be sure that you are not hitting innocent men? Even if you know that they're shooting from the 5th floor house there, from the 3rd floor, from the 2nd window. Can you shoot back and be sure that you are not hitting innocent men? The Palestinian terror, they try to hit the civilians, because the aim of terror is not only to kill people. The aim of terror is to frighten the other side, to terrorize them, to make the life in the other side impossible. So the civilians will push the government to give them some political benefits, that they couldn't get on the negotiation table. And the Israeli government took decision that we are not fighting the Palestinian people. They are going to be our neighbors. We're fighting only the terrorists. But it's a mission that army doesn't know how to do. So the soldiers that we brought here ask us, why you're bringing us to such dangerous place and you don't let us shoot? So we gave them an order. If you see an argument that is shooting from the other side, of course, hit him. If not, just shoot above the houses to frighten them. But don't shoot directly because you can hit some innocent man. So it continued day after day. They were shooting, we were shooting, they were shooting, we were shooting. Just imagine what happened to such quiet neighborhood when they have been shot from the other side. At that time they had normal glasses in the windows. Today they have bulletproof glasses. You can see that the glasses in the windows are some green or some gray because they are bulletproof. But at that time they had normal glasses in the windows, so when the Palestinians were shooting, they moved to their relatives if they have somewhere else in Israel. But then there were terror attacks all over the country, so they came back to the houses. Here it's stone houses, so you can still live on the other side of your apartment. But all the apartments here were designed with big windows from the living room and the kitchen to where this beautiful view. So just imagine what happened in evening time if someone needs something from the kitchen. Well, probably the wife will send the husband to bring it. But when he opens the refrigerator, there is a light. And in a minute, you are the shooting from the other side. Even grown-up children wet the beds again. People were afraid to send their children to school. People were afraid to go out to work. So we took our troops and we get inside that area, taking back the responsibility of security from the Palestinian Authority hands to our hands. Well, we were there for about 3 years. I'm talking about 2001 till 2004. It was very quiet. And then the American ambassador to Israel, Daniel Tirza, came to us. And he said to us, well, we have some arrangement with the Palestinian Authority. You can be sure that no one will shoot. Get out. So we moved out from this area. At the same day that we left the area, a border policeman was shot just here from the other side, and we had to get back there. We were there for another 2 years. And then the Americans sent General Dayton to the area. Well, General Dayton brought here staff from the CIA, and they trained the Palestinian police. Not here, they trained them in Jericho, and then we let them the area. Today we are out from this area. We're working in this side of the fence. The Palestinian police is working on the other side of the fence. We have very good coordination with the Palestinian police. It's not cooperation, it's only coordination. They are not doing anything for our sake. They are doing it for their own sake because they know that if someone will shoot, we will get in. And therefore it's very quiet here. Before I'll tell you about the security fence, I want to share with you another story. You can see there above the church, there is a white building with a long antenna. Just there on the horizon. Well, down the hill there is another refugee camp, very famous one, the Higby refugee camp. This refugee camp was rehabilitated by the help of the Japanese government, so probably it looks better than this one today. But in 2002, there were 3 youngers from the Higby refugee camp that wanted to create a terror attack in Jerusalem. So they just took a taxi from the Higby refugee camp to Lida refugee camp. They spent here the last night. They got here the cellular phones, the explosive belts. They took the last night photos. And in morning time, when there were thousands of Palestinian workers that were climbing the mountain to work in Israel, at that time there was no barrier here. You can cross wherever you want, whenever you want. So every morning, thousands of Palestinian workers were climbing the mountain to work in Israel. And these 3 terrorists thought that they can get inside that crowd. But at that morning, we had just in this small valley 5 patrol jeeps of the border police. The order to the border police was not to shoot, of course. The order to the border police was not even to catch those illegal workers. We don't have enough courts. We don't have enough jails for illegal workers. So the order to the border police was just stop them and send them back to the West Bank. But when these 3 terrorists saw the border police here, 2 of them got cold legs and they went back to the refugee camp. One of them succeeded to get to the bus station up there. He got on public bus number 32. The bus was crowded with children in the way to school. It was morning time and he just waited. He waited till the bus came in front of the school and then he blew up himself. There were 19 children that were murdered in this terror attack and 62 that were wounded. And everyone was shocked in Israel. Not because it was the first terror attack, not because it was the biggest terror attack, then because this terror attack was intended to hit children. This is not how freedom fighters are acting. This is how terrorists are acting. Well, at that time, the Prime Minister of Israel was Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon was a very famous general in the army before he joined the politics. He was in his office here in Jerusalem, less than 1 kilometer from the place that this terror attack took place. And he said to his people, I want to go there. I want to see it in my own eyes. They said to him, you are not in the army anymore. You are now the Prime Minister of Israel. You cannot go to such dangerous places. But he insisted, and they took him to the street. It was all bloody there. Some of the wounded were still on the ground. And although he was in so many battles, he was shocked to see these children. And in that evening, we were called to Prime Minister office. And he shouted at us, I gave you all the manpower that is needed. I gave you all the budget that is needed. Why you cannot block the terror? And I asked Prime Minister, please, Prime Minister, come with us to the ground, see it in your own eyes, and give us the right orders. So the next morning, we were just here. We were standing here, the Prime Minister of Israel, the Mayor of Jerusalem, Ehud Olmert, that later became the Prime Minister, the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Chief of the Police, the Head of the Secret Service, a lot of commanders. And thousands of Palestinian workers were climbing the mountain to work in Israel. And I asked Prime Minister, what do you want us to do? We're not going to shoot these illegal workers. We're not at the border between Texas and Mexico. We're not shooting illegal workers. I'm talking about 2002, just after 9/11. We're not going to shoot these illegal workers. Let us build some barrier on the ground that they will stay in their area. We will stay in our area. And if someone wants to cross, he will do it through a checkpoint. It took another 2 weeks. Another big terror attack in Passover evening in hotel in Netanya. And the government took the first decision to let the army design and build a security fence. And that was the moment when I got the mission to be the head of this project. As the government didn't want to build it, the government didn't want to get inside the details of the road of the fence. So I was the bad guy that had to walk on the ground with my staff, define the right line of the fence, and build it as fast as I can. But just 6 weeks before that, I had here another senator, Senator Barack Obama. When he came here, nobody thought that he would run for the president. So only 6 people came with him, not even one journalist. And when I told him the same story that I told you, he asked me a question. He said to me, you are talking about security, 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 and really you have a very good security story. But if you want to defend these Israelis, build a fence here near the Israeli houses, not near the Palestinian houses. Here it's less than 100 meters. In other places it's more than 2 miles. So you're using the security story to take Palestinian lands. Well, a very good question. And I answered him, as I can tell you today, that the reason the defense is there and not here is security reason. Well, how come? There is no fence in the world that you cannot cross. Even in Berlin, when they had those concrete walls with landmines on the ground, electric wires, automatic shooting machines, guards, dogs all over the area, people cross the wall. Here we build a system. There are no mines in the ground, not electric wires, not automatic shooting machines, but we believe that you cannot cross it without leaving an indication. And from the moment that we get this indication, we need some space to run after the man and catch him before he gets to his target. If the fence will be here, we'll just know that someone is in, but we cannot help it. Later I'll tell you why it didn't work in Gaza Strip. But look, this fence is built against terrorists. It's not built against army. It's not built against organization that tried in one time to cross in more than 170 places at the same time. It's against terrorists, okay? So the fence here, how it works. You can see that it's not only a fence, it's a whole system, about 45 meters wide. It starts from the Palestinian side with a simple fence, a lot of barbed wires on it and red signs. If you look carefully, you can see from here on the Palestinian side of the fence some of these red signs. It's written there in Arabic, in English and in Hebrew, don't come in, it's a closed army area. So innocent people are not supposed to be on the other side of it, but it takes you just 5, 6, 7 minutes to cross it. Then there is a small ditch or cliff that no car can cross it, and then there is the fence itself. The fence is built on a concrete belt that is about 1 foot underground, and the fence itself is about 10 feet high. It's not electrified, but it's a very, very sophisticated fence, because there are a lot of sensors on this fence that if you touch it, if you cut it, if you climb on it, and even if you come with some metal near it, it gives a precise indication where and what's going on there. At the moment that we get this indication, the cameras that we have all over the area are moving, so we can see, is it a child that runs after his ball, or it's a terrorist that wants to cross the fence. At the moment that we get this indication, 3 patrols are running. 1 patrol is running down there, but the other 2 patrols are running up here, so we can close the area and catch the man in his way. Then you can see on the ground between the fence and the asphalt road, there is about 5 meters wide of a dirt path. We're cleaning this dirt path twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. So if someone steps on it, he leaves a footprint on the ground. And that's another sign for us. And then there is the patrolway. The order to the army and the border police is to be in 5 minutes to any call. I'm talking about 451 miles long, and they have to be in 5 minutes to any call. So we need a lot of forces. But we need a very good patrolway that they can run very quickly. And then there is another fence on the Israeli side. It's not easy to see it. Look in the green area between the patrolway and the highway, between the trees, you can see there is another gray fence. This fence is constructed there to delay the terrorists for some minutes more, and there will not come some innocent men from the Israeli side. Between the barbed wires on the Palestinian side and the barbed wires on the Israeli side, we use another kind of rules of engagement. We are not shooting a man if he's inside, but everyone that is inside is suspicious, of course. And we saw Bethlehem in a distance of 2 kilometers. Now we are just 45 centimeters from Bethlehem, but 45 centimeters of concrete. So a lot of people say to me, we don't like your fence, but we can understand why you build it. But why building such walls? Well, really, I try to construct wire fences all over the area. But when we came to urban areas like here, between Bethlehem and Jerusalem, and I didn't have space to build such a system as you saw there, and we took a measured decision not to destroy or evacuate even one Palestinian house. I'm talking about 451 miles long, and not even one Palestinian house was destroyed or evacuated by building the fence. So when we came to urban areas and I didn't have space, I had to construct concrete walls. Another reason, in some places, like along road number 6, cross Israel highway, there are 2 Palestinian towns, Tulkarem and Kalkilia, and they were shooting from their towns toward the traffic that runs on the main highway of Israel. So I had to construct their concrete walls to protect the traffic from the Palestinian snipers. Another reason, in urban areas, I wanted to reduce the friction between the soldiers and the people that lives on the ground. I didn't want that some Palestinian children will stone the fence. The fence is very sensitive, so the fence will react, the soldiers will run, and it will start something between the soldiers and the people that lives on the ground. And there is another reason. The fence cost a lot of money, and they didn't want the Palestinian to harm the fence. And therefore, in urban areas, concrete walls. So people said to me, okay, we don't like it, but we can understand it. But why so high? Here it's 9 meters high, 29 feet high. Why so high? Can you make it some shorter? Well, really at first I tried to construct only 6 meters high. But 6 meters, if you climb it, some people can jump. 9 meters, nobody jumps. So it takes you time to climb it, it takes you time to get down. We have a lot of cameras and sensors to the Palestinian side, so we can see if someone starts climbing the wall and just wait for him at the Israeli side, so it's very effective. So people say to me, okay, we can even understand that. But why so ugly? Well, really, if you go to the Palestinian side, you can see on the walls, there is very, very bad graffiti against Israel. That's obvious, that's in their side. But even on the Israeli side, if you'll go to Abu Dis neighborhood in East Jerusalem, you can see on the walls it's written, from Warsaw ghetto to Abu Dis ghetto, or all the Israeli soldiers are Nazis, or freedom to Palestine, or look where the American taxes are going to. A lot of very bad graffiti on the Israeli side of the wall. So at first I sent my soldiers to erase the graffiti. But you know, graffiti, you erase it, the next morning there is worse one. But then I had here a tour of the members of the City Council of New York City. And they said to me, no problem. We have a special paint that we are putting in the subway that you cannot make graffiti on it. Well, I sent my men to New York, they brought the stuff, I put it on the walls, and I brought Israeli paint spray. And the spray works. But then I realized that we are living in a democrat country. In a democrat country, people have the right to protest, and they even have the right to draw graffiti on walls. I know that in a lot of countries it's illegal to draw graffiti on walls. In Israel there is no law against it. And I believe that it's better, that people will take out their anger by graffiti and not by violence. So today we let the graffiti on the walls, and when I am driving along the walls and I see this very bad graffiti, I am proud. I am proud to live in such state that can let such graffiti on the walls and know that it's part of the Israeli democratic system. Another problem that I had to face here is how people can cross from the Palestinian side to the Israeli side. Before the fence was built, about 600,000 Palestinians were coming every day to Israel. Half of them from Gaza Strip, half of them from the West Bank. Well, till the war, we let... Well, till the war, we let 160,000 Israeli Palestinians come to Israel every day, and from Gaza Strip it was only 11,000. That was till the war. Today we let about 100,000 or less than 100,000 people come to Israel every day. Most of them are coming to work, but some of them are coming to take medical care or other things in Israel that they have to do it, and we have to check them. So at first we put just 2 patrol jeeps on the road, and we were checking the people in the street. It was a very bad point, because the soldiers were afraid that someone will come with explosive belt on himself. So they were checking the people in distance. It was very humiliating. It was very humiliating to check people in distance in the street. You say to someone, hey, take off your hat, take off your sunglasses, take off your belt in the street, really? So we went to a lot of places around the world. We learned security systems. We came back here and we built this terminal. This.
Get him some wheels.
You see, he helps him to take it up. So this terminal is one of the 26 terminals that we have along the fence. It's not the biggest one, it's not the smaller one. This terminal is built for more than 5,000 people that can cross here in an hour from the Palestinian side to the Israeli side. We don't check Palestinians that are coming back from Israel to the West Bank. No terrorist is coming from Israel to the West Bank, so we don't check them. They just have to put the magnetic card that we will see that a man the man that went to Israel in the morning is coming back in the end of the day to the Palestinian side. Well, if you are a Palestinian and you want to come to Israel for some reason, you need to have two things. You need to have a magnetic card. Magnetic card is like a passport, but the Palestinians hold Palestinian IDs, and it's very easy to fake a Palestinian ID. So you have to come once in your lifetime to the Israeli civil administration in the West Bank and get a magnetic card. Inside the magnetic card there is some biological information about you, so you cannot give it to someone else, but it's not enough. You need to have like a visa to come to Israel. We call it license or permits, and there are all kinds of documents like this. If you weren't a member in a terror organization, or you haven't sat in Israeli jail, or we don't have bad records on you, you can get these documents, but it's not enough. You need to leave your vehicle on the Palestinian side. We don't have the equipment to check cars as fast as needed, so no Palestinian car is allowed to cross to Israel. Even ambulances, when they are coming, we have to search that they are not hiding explosives as they did in the past. So you are leaving your car on the Palestinian parking behind the wall and getting by foot into the terminal. Inside the terminal there is a big hall for people to wait, and there are corridors to cross. There is the same equipment as in an airport, the same magnetic gate as in the same X-ray machine for your belonging. And when you're crossing it, you don't meet a soldier, you meet a computer. You have to put your hand, look to the camera. We are looking at the screening, the back of your hands, the rings of your eyes, and if it's okay, a door is open and you can cross through a corridor directly to the bus station. They take you wherever you need in Israel. If something is suspicious, another door is open and you're going to a private room. Girl soldiers are checking women, boy soldiers are checking men. It's done in private. We are not humiliating anyone. And if it's okay, you can go to Israel. If no, we know what to do with you. Okay? In the rushest hour, it takes you not more than 20 minutes to cross from one side to the other side. It works, and it works very good. So we have special shuttles from Bethlehem to the Temple Mount and back. Usually the Palestinian police is checking them, and they're getting on the bus, and we just supervise it from our side and see that everything is okay. And if someone needs something, there is the white tent there. But last year there were 250,000 Palestinians that came in Fridays to the Temple Mount. Look now to your right side. You can see this white neighborhood here. That will be my sixth story. I want to go to the second one. The olive tree. As you know, olive tree never die. Every year it gets thicker and thicker. The core of the tree dies, but the tree stays. So probably this olive tree that you saw there is more than 1,000 years old. Just imagine, 1,000 years old. Olive tree became the symbol of peace in the Western culture, but it's also the symbol of the Palestinian resistance against Israel. In Arabic, there is a word sumud. Sumud means to be stuck to your land whatever happens. So it became the symbol of the violence resistance against the occupation. So wherever you see in the media, you see a Palestinian demonstration and they are going with olive leaves in their hands, they know that you will think that this is a peace demonstration. But to their own people, they want to show, we will continue the violence resistance against Israel. So it's one thing, two different meanings at all.